Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Just letting people roll in here for a little bit before we
Hi,
get going.
Scott. Hi,
Hey,
Kristen.
hey, man.
Hey, peace.
Hello. Hello, hello. Double muting. Welcome to yet another Wednesday webinar.
Do you want to give a brief format for the new folks?
Yeah. So, welcome those who are new. And basically, we're doing this, once a week, just for the musician community, just to give everyone a sense of, what we're up to, what the format is, how all of this works. And we give little presentations, and then we leave it open for any questions you guys might have. So if you receive this invite, it means you're already an approved musician, and you might have already had some experience streaming in one of the incarnations of our ever evolving format, which is basically what we're going to talk about today. Just going to kind of give you a very clear overview of where we're at right now and the format that we've kind of come to that we feel is solid and seems to work for everyone in a much more clear and manageable way than what we were doing previously. So I'll just wait like maybe one more minute and then we'll get into it. But if anybody has any questions while I'm going over it or just in general, just feel free to drop them in the chat box or when I'm done, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. But it should be a pretty quick overview, so we should have some time for questions, for a good amount of time for questions. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just kind of get into it, and if anyone has questions as I'm going, like I said, just feel free to drop them in the chat box, and we can address them once we move on to that portion. But I'm just going to give you like a basic overview of the online streaming format. So basically, for those who aren't familiar, we stream on YouTube Live right now. So as a musician, there's an onboarding process that you go through to stream, to be streaming approved, and that involves learning how to stream on YouTube Live. What we recommend is using OBS, which is a software production platform that allows you to stream directly to YouTube. There, in our previous videos, we go over that process. There's also a tutorial that you can look through for that. But basically, so we have the YouTube live stream, which is really the core of the streaming experience, which is then bookended on two sides by Zoom social hangout time. And we use Zoom for that because we feel that it's much better to have that person-to-person connection that the video chat allows rather than just the text chat on the side of a YouTube stream. So for that community element, we include the Zoom portion before where people are just basically rolling in, socializing, saying hello, getting a kind of sense that everyone is actually experiencing something together. And then we move on to the YouTube stream itself. And then after that is a post-concert Q&A with the musician. So those are the basic three elements to every group muse. There's a pre-concert hangout in Zoom, there's the YouTube stream, and then there's the post-concert Q&A. The pre-concert is usually 10 to 15 minutes, I would say, on the whole, is usually the amount of time for people to just come and check in, say hello, and then we transition over to YouTube. The performance itself follows the usual group muse format, which is two sets of music, 20 to 25 minutes each, and we do a very brief 3 to 5 minute kind of stretch your legs break in between the program, in between the two sets. And then the Q&A afterwards can run anywhere from a half hour to just however long people are, want to keep engaging. So those are the basic three phases. Now, within those phases, there are three basic roles. One is the role of the musician, which is you all, of course. And basically, that's, as I mentioned, it happens through YouTube Live, streaming to YouTube Live. So during the second role is the MC, and that is a role that is provided by GroupMuse. In the past, we were doing it a little differently, but that is the way we do it now. Is that every GroupMuse has an MC that GroupMuse staff will be present for. They will be assigned to, and so you don't have to worry about the Zoom portion of the evening. The MC will be running all the technical aspects of Zoom, including being there for the pre-concert chat, welcoming people in, giving them a kind of lay of the land, and also directing them towards the YouTube video when it's time to stream, and handling all the other technical responsibilities of Zoom. So you as a musician during that time can be just getting your setup ready. You can pop in, kind of like being in the virtual green room, you can pop into Zoom and like say hello if you want. You will be having the phone number or another mode of contact with the MC during that period, so you're both on the same wavelength of like, okay, people are rolling in, we're getting ready. You could decide on a start time, like a hard start, 15 minutes past or whatever you want to do. So then you'll go live. The MC will be staying on Zoom. They'll mute everyone. Some people will hang out on Zoom. Some people will close it out. Either way, they'll be focused on the live stream video at that time. And then afterwards, again, everyone comes back to the Q&A. The MC is there to handle. And during the performance, the MC is there to address any issues if someone like can't find the YouTube video or whatever. So there's the musician, there's the MC, and then the third element, which is something that we're still developing. So this may or may not be present at your GroupMuse, but it's a social host, which is basically people within the GroupMuse community who might have hosted house concerts in the past, or are just really interested in bringing their friends to experience an online GroupMuse. And so they are contributing to that social element during the GroupMuse. They might contribute to asking some questions, getting the kind of flow of conversation going, as well as other responsibilities in that hosting role. If there isn't a social host present, the MC will take care of all those responsibilities, including making the contribution to the musician ask throughout the evening. So the social host, and you as a musician, if you have anyone that that you think might want to be your own social host, then definitely connect them with us, and we can get them set up to host your concert that way. So the social host is there to help with the flow and also to bring more people to your event. In addition to your concert being on the website and going out in our weekly mailer, it's just another way to drive traffic to your concert, in addition to, of course, you spreading the word within your own communities about it. So again, so there's the three phases of the GroupMuse: pre-concert hang and Zoom, concert, post-concert Q&A and Zoom, and then the three roles: the musician, the MC, and the optional social host. So that's the format, and those are the roles. Yeah, Scott is here, and Scott is heading up the working with the MC program, and so if you have any questions about that, they can be directed towards him. But and I think I saw Bex, maybe she rolled in for a second. Yeah, she's here. So anyway, hey, there you are. Guys, did I leave anything out you want to fill in or add to in all of that? No?
I just want to acknowledge that we've been giving you a lot of information and a lot of different iterations over the last couple of weeks. And so we appreciate your patience with us, and this implementation is something we think will make everything easier for you and will allow you to create your events at will, knowing that we'll give you all the support you need as it relates to the handing of the mic and the sort of general coordination of the event. So we hope this is really helpful for you. How about you, Bex?
No, I think Krista's pretty much covered it. The hosts on your event are, like he mentioned, intended to not only build your crowd, but more importantly, maintain this like really warm, encouraging atmosphere that just like flows really nicely from one state of the Group Muse to the next. And it seems very natural to have somebody that's a host there who's not an administrator or the musician, somebody who can focus on that social element, um, and is kind of given the power. And by that, I mean like just this rapport in which they can like call out on people to make the flow of like the icebreaker activity go really smoothly, instead of just waiting for people to opt in, but rather calling on them and having somebody that is like designated as the host who's going to like have the power to take on that role, like just kind of feels like a very natural thing. It's something that existed in the in-person Group Muse world when you would go to their house. They were the person that opened the door, that welcomed you in, that said, "Hi, I don't know your name. So nice to meet you. Here's the snack table over here. And like, please like make yourself welcome even though we don't know each other," or "Hi, so and so, let me introduce you to this other person." And so to have somebody who is still in that role in the online sphere makes a lot of sense. So as you get comfortable with this new medium, I think you'll find that it kind of is as close to the real thing as we can get, and that's just what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and the goal as things develop, as technology develops, and more resources become available, we eventually not do this platform jumping from YouTube to Zoom, but in order to do that, we either need to have the audio quality of a platform like Zoom be a little higher, or just another platform entirely that allows for more dynamic interaction and high audio video quality. And this is something that we're actively pursuing, and hopefully at some point we'll create to have an even more elegant solution. But based on the drawing from the resources we have right now, we think that this is probably the best format based on trial and error of the last 2 months. So as far as the social host was the question here.
I can take that if you
Yeah, go
want.
ahead. Go ahead.
So thank you for your question. It's a good one. No, you do not need to designate one. That is what I'm entirely focused on doing these days, is reaching out to the wider Group Muse network through email and phone call and seeing if people are interested in either like if they see an event that does not have a host on it already, that is already scheduled by musicians, and they see one that they like, that I can pair them up with a musician, and they can invite their friends and family. Or if there isn't one on the website that's on a specific date they're looking for, or they're really looking for a cellist in LA because they're in LA and they love the cello because their kid plays the cello, that I would go ahead on the back end and find a musician in the database that fits that need and then create an event for them. So no, you do not need to designate your own hosts. However, if you were really active in your city and you like played at a specific host house like one time and you had a really great experience, or you were there more than once, and have a rapport with them, please feel free to reach out to them. They might not know that Group Muse has gone online, and ask them if they'd be interested in hosting you online. You can absolutely do that and then get in touch with me afterwards, and I would be very happy to set that up for you. But there's no requirement for you to do that whatsoever.
Yeah. So I think we're just happy to open it up if people have any questions. If so, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or drop them in the chat. Ian, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. The elephant in the room, as I can see it in our virtual room, is the button that I see on the top that says live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, we're streaming to YouTube right now as well.
Whoa, I didn't. So Zoom, it allows. Okay, so you're okay. Can you explain that a little bit?
We're recording the webinar, as an archive. This is like just a tutorial, and so basically, you can stream Zoom to YouTube. I mean, it's again, like as far as for like performances and stuff, it's not going to give you the greatest quality, because it's Zoom then being encoded and encode it on YouTube. But yeah, it's an option that Zoom allows. You can send it to Facebook, you can send it to LinkedIn.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's
this
more
is
for, like,
this is
businesses.
different. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just making it clear that this is different from the OBS to YouTube route.
Oh yeah,
that happens
absolutely.
during Zoom.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is like, say you're having a conference and you want to reach a wider audience than the people who can log in on Zoom. So you just throw it up on YouTube and people can watch it there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. For instance, I mean, I've received a handful of emails already today saying, I'm teaching a music lesson at 3:30. Is this webinar going to be recorded? And I said, yes, it will. And we're going to post it onto our Group Muse channel and you can watch it at your leisure. That's what this is.
Yeah, and also, I feel like we should probably have some kind of disclaimer that if you don't want to be recorded, then just block out your video and mute yourself. If you feel weird being on the spot here.
I had another question. Different thing though. A few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, you were onboarding volunteers to be hosts for concerts. What has that role transitioned to in your new world?
So that could have been either an MC or a social host. I guess it depends. I'm not sure which conversation you were having, but Scott and Bex are basically heading up those two dimensions.
Well, Scott, you helped me become a host like a month ago or more, and then we didn't follow up too much. So what does that put my status, and what would I do if I wanted to host like we talked about before?
Sure. So this would essentially put you in the role of a social host, where you would still convene the evening, but you wouldn't be required to facilitate the more technical roles of helping people with Zoom, muting, unmuting people, setting up Zoom before your event. You basically just show up and you get to be the social convener. So I'll let Bex talk more about what that looks like for you. But does that make sense? You are disburdened of the technical responsibilities.
Yeah, and it means that any event I was involved in would still have a Group Muse staff person.
Correct.
Exactly. So we'll just have a staff member doing all the protocol before, where you would just hop in the line 10 minutes before with the MC and the musician, and you, the social host, and you guys would sort out the run of show and who's responsible for what thing.
Yeah, it's like before, like an in-person Group Muse where you'd like gather, you just hang out with the musician and be like, okay, this is what's going to go down.
Did I convey that right, Bex?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly wonderful if musicians want to host other musicians on the platform. I think for people who are non-musicians who are attending those events, like that could be a really like warm and empowering experience. Just to see that. I mean, no one is going to be able to explain what your life is like other than like a fellow musician who is going through all of this pandemic right there with you. And so having a musician there to advocate on your behalf for the contribution and also be able to talk about your Group Muse experience, I mean, that could be a really lovely rapport for your audience. And that happy audiences that are having a wonderful time give generously. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in hosting each other, of course, get in touch with me. That doesn't involve any sort of technological role whatsoever, but rather just like a congenial personality and a desire to be a leader.
Yeah, and it can also be a nice way to team up with other musicians to help, attract, more of each other's networks. So, like you go to one musician's and bring your network and they go to yours and bring, like it can be just a good way for musicians to support each other throughout this time. Okay, 2 questions. We'll go. Great. Daniel?
Yeah, thanks, Christos. I just want to say to the other musicians, it's going well. I've scheduled one next month, and hats off to Bex and Christos and Scott for making this process available, one, and for my experience. So I just want to encourage you that it can be done. Perhaps the more daunting portion is the technical, getting that stream going, but you can do it. I'm going to do it right here in my house. It's a duet, and they are facilitating the process extremely well. So just a word of encouragement, you can do this.
I appreciate that, Daniel. Yeah, yeah, and that's right on. Well, exactly, well said. Um, Natalie, did you have a question?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. I was, well, thank you for setting all this up and continuing to evolve this online process. It's been really amazing to watch. I was wondering, as someone with a larger group, how does the Q&A session work afterwards? Because with in-person group muses, occasionally it was a very focused, like we were still sitting down and the audience was asking us questions and then everyone dispersed. But sometimes it was just, we stopped playing and people were asking us questions, but they were talking with each other and the group kind of left in a sort of individually in an organic manner. We certainly didn't all make a like grand exit together. So is it more of like a focused discussion where it's really just asking the musicians questions for however long that goes on and then we all leave together? Is that more how that goes?
Yeah, I mean and I mean Bex, if you want to, you can address this too. I would say I feel like you're ready to, but you know, I would say one of the best ways is just to attend a few and check it out yourself as well, so you can get a feel, because it's like not exactly the same every time, but it is much more focused. I don't know, Bex, you want to share?
Yeah, I'd say it's focused. Are you playing in a duo or a trio or
We have a quintet.
a quintet? Awesome. So I've seen I've seen it happen in a number of different ways. You know, if you have two members who they can't, they have somewhere they need to go, they need to they have something else they have to do, they have to teach a lesson, whatever, of course. But other times I've seen every member just line up on a couch and squeeze in as close to the camera as they can. And yes, it is very organized. And everybody's kind of still all together. Of course, you have members of the Zoom who don't stay for the entire time. They just click the little X and they're out of the Zoom. And so you'll see the numbers go down. But for the most part, my experience has been that like 80% or more of the people that are watching the concert do attend the Q&A at the end and stay almost until the very end, when there's some sort of like sign off and everybody waves goodbye to each other and then the whole group muse is over. And it really leaves you with this like well-rounded experience from start to finish that I particularly enjoy, and I know you will too.
Yeah, I'd say it allows you to actually reach, interestingly, a level of depth in that kind of aspect of the experience that I don't often see in in-person group muses, because it is very focused and allows you to really share your craft and your experience in a really kind of different and unique way. So it is actually quite a nice thing, or at least, you know, when it flows and when everyone is there on doing what they're there to do, it can be really nice. We had a time zone question. Yeah, and this is something that's very interesting in general that you know, I think a lot of us are thinking about, is now that we aren't tied to local time zones, how do we reach both coasts? What's good for programming? And yeah, I mean, obviously there's, you know, just the general time differences. So and people are still kind of following a work week, you know, a lot of the time. So targeting like Sundays are actually very popular, I think, for this reason, because you could do an early afternoon or an early evening concert and you can really cover a lot of ground. It's a little more challenging on, like, you know, a Thursday night. You pretty much going to be more focusing on one or another host, I would say. I mean, you can try to split it in the middle, but I think that the weekends obviously it gives you more options, and I think it's really just up to you to decide where you think you have more of a following overall. And you could also do a couple different concerts. Scott, you have something?
One important thing to add to that for creating your event, it's online, and so what we encourage is that you don't put place names in the title of your event. For a perfect example, there was an event that was published and it's like music from country X and Y, live from country Z, and then it has a time zone M. So there are 4 different places in which it's invoked. And when you have a local group use and, going to people's houses and stuff, it doesn't matter that much because it's going to be in Boston. But when it's online, that can create, and inevitably does create, lots of confusion from folks who are trying to sort out what time zone it's happening on, because that's the main thing to convey is, Greenwich Mean Time, Greenwich time, when does it start? So that might be like a sort of silly thing, like, oh, what other place names? It's important to say where you're from. We put like Group Muse live from San Francisco, and then we put it on Pacific time, and we feel like that's okay. But anytime you have like, we're shooting from these 3 places and that's anything like that, the more elaborate, the less legible it is. So just a note.
Yeah, and that's something also with our own platform that we're going to be refining, since we've retrofitted our whole platform that was more based on local concerts, and now we're streamlining a lot of that so that it's simpler.
Yeah. And it also kind of depends on if you yourself are setting up the event. Who are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach the general Group Muse database, or are you really trying to appeal to your local network and reconnect with the people that you have like made connections with before or are looking to create new connections with? So thinking about your intention for your concert is going to help you decide on your time, because maybe you don't care if you're in Portland, maybe you don't care so much about playing for the people in New York, but would rather have your Portland people come. And so it's more important for you to create it at a time that you think would be good for that particular audience. But maybe you do want to reach a wider network. And so thinking about like what is good overall for the country is better. Additionally, if you have, if it's going the other way and you have an online host who is interested in having you, and you are in LA and they're in Boston, then that too is going to create different timing issues. And in that case, it would more or less be up to the host, since they would be bringing their people. And so it's more important that they can choose the time in which they think they can garner a better audience for you. So yeah. As far as deciding when in the week to do yours, we do have a limited number of slots available during the week because we are staffing every single event. And so I don't know if Christos mentioned this already, but when you are creating your event, it is imperative that you check the website to see which dates have a more open calendar, because if you are trying to reach a wider network and have a larger audience, you don't want the Group Muse platform members having to choose between 3 or 4 different events, and we may not even be able to staff 3 or 4 events on any given night. So, if there are 2 events already listed on a Wednesday, like see if you could do it for the day before on a Tuesday, because there's nothing there and you might have more people willing to come to your event and we'll be able to easily staff it. So just some other considerations.
Yeah. So any other questions on the general format or?
I could just say something, Christos, about timing. I'm on the West Coast. So in California, that's where my audience will come from. And at the same time, I know people on the East Coast. So I moved it from 8 o'clock suggested to 7 o'clock. And particularly for the older crowd that we seem to know more of, that's fine on a Saturday night. And there's, a benefit to it being late on the East Coast in that it's not, oh, can I do this at 8 o'clock or should I do the group? I want to do both. After they've done something, gone to a movie, whatever they've done, gone out for a restaurant, they come back 10 o'clock, relax with a concert. So it's working out. That's just a bright side of having to choose between, what works in one coast or the other. And you will reach more people in the Group Muse community at large, I think. I'm hoping. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you know, I think as we were saying, like it's just like a regular group muse where it's going to be a little different for everybody. You're going to find your audience. You're going to carve it out and develop a following in your own way. And you know, maybe you'd be interested in seeing locally who you can connect with, so that when we are going back into in-person concerts, you can bring them there too. You know, so you could think about that. Or maybe you just love online streaming and you want to reach, you want to cast the net as wide as possible and have that kind of a following. So it's really, you know, it's really up to you, I think, ultimately, when you start thinking about all these factors. Um, and yeah.
Another comment about the hosting. Our host will be a prior host who presented us as a duo and me as a solo in the past. So she's got her network of friends and prior group musers. And I've got mine, and Francesca has hers, and Group Muse has theirs. So I'm looking forward to a big crowd.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, and that's common, you know, like having that time to prepare. And we do recommend, you know, at least targeting at least a couple weeks out when you do schedule an event. And I mean, I guess I can also just clarify that, since we keep referring to it as far as how do you schedule an event. So after, you know, you go through the sound check process of testing out streaming on YouTube, for those who haven't done it yet, you would then send me, I mean, I'll just put my email in case anyone wants to. You send me an email with the link to the YouTube test video. I review it, and then if all checks out, I approve you and enable you to go and create your own event. The way you do that is you go to the host, you log into your Group Muse account, you go to the host section where you set up your next Group Muse. So you would basically be setting it up for yourself and assigning yourself as the musician to it. And then after that, it goes into a pending state after you fill out all the information. And that's when we review it, make sure there aren't any scheduling conflicts like Bex was mentioning. If there are, we might send an email back saying, hey, can you move this to a different day? Otherwise, we will approve it, and then you will be assigned an MC as we had discussed. And then also you will be notified if you're going to be assigned a social host, or of course, if you want to bring one on, that's when you could contact us and let us know that you have someone. So that is that. Any other questions around any of this? It's like class, like we might have an early day today. It's kind of nice. Oh, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, two questions. Okay. Go ahead, whoever.
I guess I have a tech question about Zoom. There was talk about artists receiving a comp paid membership.
Oh, sorry, your mic is kind of being a little funny.
Oh, okay. So I have a question about Zoom. There was mention, I think, in a previous session that musicians would receive the paid version of Zoom in order to have the Zoom conferencing. And now that we have an MC, I'm just curious about what the current situation is with that.
Yeah, there's no more need for that because, yeah, it's something that it's one of those kind of things in the process of, like, we talked about it, now it's gone. So yeah, you don't have to, that was part of the simplification process. You don't have to have a Zoom account at all because you're the guest now. You know, like the Zoom, think of the Zoom as like the house that you're going to play at, like, you know, in a way.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to do anything with it, you know, so you don't.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. I know I've asked you privately about the possibility of using pre-recorded duos, trios, quartets that I've done on a cappella. And you said you're not doing that right now, but is it possible to take one of those rather than me as a soloist? I have 2 of me or 3 of me or 4 of me.
Mhm.
Is it possible to stream one of those to the YouTube and do a concert that way, which would give me a lot more variety?
Are you saying sing to a backing track of yourself, like layered, or?
No, I've already done the recordings using a cappella.
Right.
And I have them stored in my computer. Could I use one of those pre-recorded videos to forward to YouTube, to put on the YouTube demo.
Oh, you mean as a sound check?
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically, the sound check's purpose is to, like, how will you be performing? How would you be performing live,
Oh,
or through Group Muse? What are you envisioning for your setup?
oh, well, it would be just me because,
Right?
you know,
Like,
I'm a single person, but I have bass flute, alto flute, C flute, and piccolo, and I can play different solo pieces on that. I've done that for local group muses.
okay. I mean,
But since I've been doing the duos and trios and quartets, I thought that might add even more interest and variety.
right. I mean, the suggestion that I could make for this is like, if you want to perform live, but you want to sort of layer your things that you already have, there are several ways to basically run a backing track through OBS and
Mm.
sing to accompaniment that is pre-recorded accompaniment.
Oh, okay.
There are ways to do that if you want to add more textures and sounds to sing, to have accompaniment that you can't obviously do for yourself.
Great.
So that is the reason why we're so like one pointed about this, like it needs to be live, is that we really, obviously Group Muse is a lot about connection between performers and audience, and we have just found that there is, and I mean, this is an example I often use, but I think it gets the point across pretty clearly. We worked with a wonderful group called Project Music Heals Us, who right now are working with hospitals to perform for COVID patients, where they basically are on call and they get a text from a doctor saying, okay, can you go live? And they go into the patient's room and play in real time for that patient. And so this idea of going into a room with a recording and saying like, oh, here's a YouTube video for you to watch right now, versus going into that same room and saying, I have a musician on the line and they're here to play for you right now.
Mm.
It's a very different feeling. And to us, to build that sense of community, the live experience in all of its imperfections seems to serve a kind of need, or kind of, something very human that allows this whole platform to kind of come alive. And so that's, it's not because we're trying to prevent people from performing. It's just that also, I mean, frankly, a lot of organizations are claiming to be live streaming right now, when they're just like, they're even like kind of deceptively not. Like they're playing pre-recorded concerts, maybe even sometimes at the same time of day, so it looks like it's live. And so we just really want to be honest and transparent about the fact that everything we do is live streamed. And we've had over 150 concerts doing that, and it's just something that we really believe in right now. And maybe if things change and we continue with other forms of programming, that'll obviously be welcome, because we're not trying to exclude people. We're just trying to kind of stay true to what we feel like is what makes Group Muse what it is, which is that connection, that real-time connection among everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you like to say something about the social, the MC people, just by way of introduction to us, who they are and how you pick them, and what we can expect?
Yeah, we're Scott and I were just talking about this. We're still in the process of really. Well, Scott, actually, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, we're in a trial month with a group of folks. You might meet them in this first month, and then we're going to evaluate and see what the broader vision is after June. So you will meet them during the events, and they'll introduce themselves. It's kind of a big team, so we can't like bring everyone in, and they're pretty focused in their role, so they don't have time, like bandwidth to intervene in these webinar settings. But after June, you will meet all of them after we've set a more indefinite plan on a broader horizon than just this month.
Yeah, and
so that's a longer way of saying not yet.
Yeah, and you'll obviously, I mean, if when you schedule an event, you'll obviously be connecting with your MC and getting to know each other, the lay of the land and all of that with each other. So it's not like there'll be these mysterious figures that just appear, in your event. But yeah, right now we don't feel quite ready to make that kind of public introduction.
One
Mike?
last question, if you don't mind, from me, Christos. If we're just really daunted by the technical aspects, and as I was last night, working with OBS and YouTube Stream, trying to get prepared, would you be able to take a call from us and kind of hold our hand through it, since you've done it so much, and
Yeah, I mean, I offer Zoom, like half-hour Zoom meetings, which we can drop a link to that as well if anyone
Good.
has.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but that's something that I do, or you can shoot me an email if you have a quick question. There was a question about a microphone. Well, the Logitech. Okay, so there's a question about the webcam, the Logitech webcam. I'm not sure. Was that a question of using the webcam? And I'm trying to remember if it has a microphone built into it. But okay, you can just ask it. I'll just unmute you.
Yeah, sure. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm not exactly sure how to ask that. Well, I have that new camera / microphone,
Okay.
and I was wondering if it's good enough or not.
So the webcam is good. Like that allows you to, it improves the regular laptop webcam. It makes it higher resolution. As far as the microphone, I'm trying to remember if it has a microphone built into it or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's both.
Right. I mean, I mean, I don't have experience with it. You're welcome to send me a sound sample of it, but
Okay.
my guess is that it's not. You're going to need to if you don't. Oh, sorry.
I
go
can tell that the picture is good. The picture looks good, but I don't know about sound.
Yeah,
But
sound.
I am using my Apple computer,
Uh-huh.
so I don't know if that one is good or not.
I would just there is so basically what I recommend is USB microphones, which are basically microphones that just plug straight into your laptop.
And this one is plugged to my laptop.
So the webcam
Yeah.
is you plug it into your laptop, but
mhm.
in the video, since it's made primarily for video, that video will be
Yeah.
good, but the audio is more like designed for like speaking. It's more like a
Oh.
video kind of
Uh-huh.
conferencing type speaker microphone rather. So it's not going to probably be that much better than your laptop microphone. And so what we require for, especially for classical music, obviously, is to have some kind of external microphone. And the simplest version of that is what's called a USB microphone, which plugs directly in.
May I suggest the Zoom H1N? It's $100. It's got XY mics, very high fidelity. It's a recorder, so you can get beyond CD quality recording, and you can place it wherever you want. It's very light. It's got USB functionality as well as a line out, which I happen to be using right now. So again, it's the Zoom H1. It's like their cheapest model, and it's extremely high quality sound.
So
In fact, I'm talking on it right now.
that's the name of it, Zoom H1.
Yeah,
Zoom.
there's the Zoom. There's another microphone called Blue Yeti,
I have a nano.
and then there's a tech guide that I have that I can send you right now that has it has recommendations for USB microphones, and I'll
Well, I mean, I basically saw it, but I just was wonder if this one would do, but you think it's not, right?
yeah, just thinking about like a microphone and the size of a microphone and what it's able to receive and
Oh, okay. The size of the microphone matters. That's what you're saying.
well, I guess what I mean is the quality of the like with the webcam again, more about the video, so they're going to put the quality into the video, and the audio is just sort of there for speech. As where what it's good to have a microphone that's really designed for instruments, obviously, especially classical music, and that's just what we're doing that for, is to just create a baseline for group music concerts, so that because we are charging for them and all of that,
Mhm,
so we
right,
want them to be
right.
consistent, so that the audience trusts that they're going to have a good listening experience. And so we basically say that the bottom line entry level of that is like an external USB microphone. Of some,
Okay. Could you drop that link again?
yeah, I'll get it.
I'll just in case.
Yeah, yep. I'm gonna link it right now. And so yeah, if you scroll down, you'll see it says entry level, and then it has some
All right. Thank you.
along with the Zoom H1 that he mentioned.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Any other questions? Oh yes, sure, yes.
Hey guys, Cherith here. I'm in San Francisco. I talked to you guys about a month ago. We were going over some ideas. So generally, I know some musicians besides myself are also presenting other musicians and doing shows with, including multiple musicians performing from various places.
Yes.
And so I've been actually using OBS to stream onto YouTube and on Facebook for the shows we've been doing. So, and I submitted a video from YouTube that was recorded from a YouTube live coming from OBS, and I didn't hear anything back. So I'm wondering if that means that you're not really interested in doing something like that, which is like somebody who's presenting other musicians, and if it's more for like musicians who are playing independently for a show.
I actually think now that you're describing it, it's your email is on my kind of like list this week to get back to. So I was planning to respond to that. So I guess it goes back to this idea of like, are we talking about doing that live or pre-recorded and streaming it?
Yeah, no, it would be live, but we've been doing 8-hour shows, so that's definitely longer than
I
what
remember
your usual thing is, but even, it could also be like a portion of that 8-hour show could be like a group music portion of it. Otherwise, I'm also open to performing on a separate event, that's separate from the 8-hour show we've been doing on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool idea to explore maybe down the road if we want to create different programming that is like more of like a kind of marathon like that. But in the meantime, like even if you like, we've done like, I don't know if you're familiar with platforms like StreamYard. StreamYard basically allows you to do multi-person, very easily productions like that and stream to YouTube and Facebook and elsewhere. But if you wanted to put together a shorter version of that, like that ran the usual group music length that just featured a couple different musicians, and then like we'd totally be happy to do that. And that's just where the technology is more on the musician side of like using whatever platform of choice, as long as it streams live to YouTube, it's cool. Scott,
and part of the reason why we couldn't reply is we were sorting out the very specific roles of what the staff MC would do for this trial month. And frankly, we have a very restricted bandwidth on, since we're requiring that the staff members at each group muse, we can give them limited hours, so if there's an event that is 8 hours long, that is about the bandwidth to have their entire week's worth of time, So we're trying to think about the event and the scope of your event in the context of what this role has for this first initial month. We were just sorting the last things out for what that would even look like. So we couldn't reply to you because we're still sorting the details out. And now that we have those details sorted out, it seems that your format would be different than what we've proposed the job description to be for group muses, which usually last no more than 90 minutes. And so we would need to basically talk as a team about if we could make an affordance for you to have a group muse that doesn't have an MC, or a different situation, a different setup, if you wanted to go beyond the 90 minutes. So it was, we didn't want to reply to you and then give you a false answer and falsify the situation. But now it's only becoming clear on what the MCs are going to be doing specifically. So we're sorry that we didn't reply faster, but now that we actually know what we're doing for this June iteration, we can work with you at least on the terms that we've laid out for our staff MCs.
So would it be appropriate for me to resubmit a video that's kind of myself performing as opposed to the musicians that we've been presenting, which is the video that I uploaded previously?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky thing. We haven't had like, for lack of a better word, ensembles submit as a collective, because you bring through a lot of musicians, and it would be the easiest for us to make sure that each musician has their own individual account verified, so that Christos knows that performers X, Y, and Z all are legit.
Yeah, so I mean, basically the
So that-
answer would be yeah, that would be cool, and then we can take it from there. You know, like if you want to bring on others, we can start.
Oh yeah, so basically
like,
you would want
yeah.
to see each musician who's performing before you put them on the platform.
It's just a sound check thing, you know. It's just, I mean, it's something that
It's not like a whole rep.
yeah,
It's not like an audition, it's more just quality assurance, make sure their
exactly.
screen's looking good and it's sounding good.
Exactly. They got a solid internet connection, an external microphone. The basics that we ask every group musician to play. We just want to make sure that everybody who's on the site is meeting that kind of baseline. It's not a, you know, it's not a incredibly like crazy thing, but obviously if people don't have equipment, then there is a little time to get there. So we just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page about that. Yeah.
Can I tag on to what
Go ahead.
Cherith is suggesting? Because it actually might be a kind of awesome thing for GroupMuse to begin offering normal GroupMuse events, but that are kind of a variety show that feature, for example, 3 different performers, you know, each doing a shorter set, you know, so that, you know, then the appeal of the event would be like, okay, instead of just hearing one person play for 45 minutes, you're hearing 3 different people from 3 different parts of the country, each playing a 10 or 15 minute set. And sure. It kind of has a little bit more of an inclusive thing for both audiences and maybe performers. I mean, you know, maybe there wouldn't be quite as many donations per person, but it would offer something in terms of, you know, just visibility, since now we're all sort of going national.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, we just did that on Saturday, actually, for our Massive Views, where I hosted and I patched in people from both the East and West Coast. And we used StreamYard for that particular one. But like I said, there are platforms that make it quite easy to do that. And so all that we would require is just that the musicians, again, that are playing have been sound checked and approved before you plan that. But yeah, like if you know musicians who are active on the GroupMuse platform and you want to band together and do that and keep it in the regular GroupMuse format, like go for it. It's definitely. We just want to make sure that it's squared away on the technical side before we go ahead with that. And to take your idea, Cherith, in concert with what happened this past weekend. I know Aaron out of Boston, I'm not sure his last name, but he had 2 or was it 3 GroupMuses in one day, where he played a East Coast one, then he played a West Coast one. So I think there are ways where you can iterate that and cause the same effect of what you want in a sort of like longer presentation or a double feature, however you want to couch it. And I mean, and of course, the part of the reason why you want to be on GroupMuse is that you have the exposure to the GroupMuse audience, and the GroupMuse audience, then you can promote both at once. And then the GroupMuse audience knows that when they're signing up for something, they can be there for a 90-minute iteration and another 90-minute iteration, instead of having to sign on for 8 hours or nothing, or trying to tune in at the right time when performer number 4 will be there, but they only, it could be a little more high resolution and when performers will arrive. So I can imagine a situation where you can have 3 90-minute performances in one day and publish them individually on the events. So as different events.
it would take a little bit of a platform change so the hosts can have multiple events in one day or more than two, but it's not impossible, and it's been done as recently as this weekend. Did I say that right, Christos? On Aaron's case?
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah, they did two in one.
But that still would ultimately depend on the availability of your staff to host and MC and so forth.
Yeah, I mean,
Any
for
of these
sure.
questions,
That's something
depends
that
on-
we could. I mean, we could plan. It's something that we could work together to plan if it's something that you want to get set up for. Yeah, we can put more preparation into it.
It would at least give a sense of we can at least put it so that in this case, if you had 2 or 3 events on a Sunday, I know then I can assign 2 or 3 different MCs to those different events, so someone isn't logged in for 8 hours straight, because we all have different availability as everyone does. So that's the way we're trying to sort it out.
I'm curious how kind of bogged down / stressed out you guys are right now with getting all this stuff going.
I think I can only speak for we can all speak for each other and everything, but it's been a journey, and I think, to be honest, I think there's always new challenges coming. There's always more to work out, but I think that as far as this format is concerned, I think we're all happy to have reached a solid footing on that. For now, where basically me, Scott, and Bex all are specializing in these different aspects, and we're working with you guys and hopefully providing you with enough resources to get up and going. So it's kind of like trying to build. It's like the Titanic's been sinking and we're building life rafts while we're trying to use them, kind of a thing. And it's been an interesting process, but I think we're all pretty grateful, but also it's been insane, to be honest. It's been absolutely insane, but great at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't feel like burnt out's the wrong word. It's just, this is an unprecedented event, and making predictions. I think it's a fool's game is to make predictions in these situations. If you took at something like 9/11 and in October of 2001, people were trying to make predictions about foreign policy and what would happen, let alone the digital securities that would happen 8 years later. This is just brand new territory, and the only thing we really do is try stuff, and then know that when you try something, you're going into the obscure and the unknown, and you get to try something else after that. So I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to solicit as many experiments as possible so we can get more of a view than when you're just trying one thing.
I'm
Well,
just
I
gonna
know
butt
from
in here,
experience-
and
Yeah.
I'm just gonna butt in here and excuse myself. I have a 1:30. I want to thank you guys a lot for hosting again. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right. Take care.
You stay
I
now.
know from experience that OBS is not the easiest software to use, and it's there's a number of settings that you need that you can dial in to make sure you have the best quality stream and so forth.
Mhm.
And so it seems like a lot of musicians, like I've been doing this thing, and we've just been running on Facebook, and a lot of musicians just don't even know how to go live on Facebook, which is just like clicking one button basically.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's a lot of walking musicians through using OBS, and but you've been looking into other streaming services as well besides OBS.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many out there, and there's so many options. I mean, OBS is kind of just like the default right now. I mean, you could use Streamlabs, which is really built on OBS. But what's interesting, I think, are these WebRTC, these web-based ones. So you have Stage 10, you have StreamYard, you have Lightstream, whatever. All these ones. I think StreamYard is one that seems to offer a nice mix of options with pretty good audio codec quality. So yeah, there are definitely options out there. And again, our goal is to slowly work towards having a more cohesive platform. But right now, OBS, although it's a little clunky, does allow you interesting, you can add plugins, you can add audio plugins, you can do all sorts of stuff. So it is, yeah. Right now, it's what we're it's our default, but hopefully in the future there'll be more user-friendly options that don't compromise on sound quality.
We're
Thank
at
you,
the
guys.
hour now.
It's, I just want to say thanks for providing the service for musicians in this time where we don't have performances besides online.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Totally.
Yeah, and definitely send us the video, and we'll get you squared away in that regard, and we can take it from there.
All right. Take care, y'all. Peace.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Next week, same time, same virtual place.
Thanks, everyone.